Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from the producers of a documentary that is currently running on Max about a tragic murder case in Iowa that is still reverberating, through our lives, even 14 years later. First off, Kristian Day, who is on the show just a few weeks ago, talking about his documentary, The Last American Gay Bar. Kristian, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And a few days ago, you brought to my attention this other project that you've been working on for quite some time called Taken Together. And we've also invited two of the other producers and directors of this documentary on, Dylan Sires. Hi, Dylan.
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad to know more about this. And Ned Muhamedagic. How'd I do? How'd I do, Ned?
That was really good. Thank you for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah. So the case in question, like I said, the documentary is called Taken Together, is the Elizabeth Collins and Lyric Cook kidnapping and murder, which I was honestly astonished to realize when I looked it back up again was in 2012. So 14 years ago since the girls were taken. And the documentary has been something that you all have been working on for quite some time. But Dylan, I want to start with you because you have been involved with this case from the very beginning, yes?
Yeah, so it started in 2012, the day the girls went missing. I worked at the local NBC News affiliate, KWWL, and I heard the call go out across the scanner in the newsroom. And from there, it just became a case that kind of baffled authorities and kind of baffled the public. And so I followed it as a news photog. That's what we called us back then. Now we call us videographers. But followed the case, knew it well. And then in 2015, 3 years, after the girls were disappeared and were murdered and the case was still ongoing, I was driving by Myers Lake. And I thought, someone should do a documentary on that because it's terrible to think about, a case being unsolved that long. And so I started my journey in 2015 and started, talk with Heather and Drew Collins and just started to slowly, as a labor of love, start shooting a documentary.
And Ned, you came into this project early on as well, yes?
Yeah, I believe by the time Dylan asked me to help, he had probably done only one or two interviews. And so if anybody else had asked me to work on a project this sensitive, I might have said no. But knowing Dylan and knowing that he wanted to do this the correct way, I immediately said yes, and we started. I knew it was going to be a long road, but Dylan was shooting for 5 years. I knew it was going to be longer than that, but here we are. It's almost 10 years, I believe, almost since this started.
Yeah, Dylan, you started the project in 2015, and did you say 2022 was when you kind of finished it up?
That's when the last filming was done, was in 2022. Yeah.
So 7 years of active production, and as Ned said, almost 10 years since it began. Dylan, talk to me just a little bit about the process. So you started collecting some interviews, and when you started this, what was, case was unsolved at the time, still unsolved today. What aspects of it did you want to make sure were brought to light and continued to be in front of the public?
Well, one of the things in 2015 when I started was I noticed there was just a lot of rumors, innuendo, what we call now misinformation, unintentional, most likely, but there's just a lot of, things that were being said that kind of blurred what actually happened. And so my first goal was like, number one, do no harm. So when I reached out to Heather and Drew, we had a beer, I talked to them, I basically pitched them like, hey, this is what I want to do. I know it's going to take a long time. Would love your support. And thankfully they gave me their blessing. And, like I said, the first thing was like, I didn't want to do any harm to the case. And so I just started slow, just learning the basic facts. And then because of Ron Steele, who is the KWWL anchor for a number of years there. He's quite famous, but he put in a good word with me so that I could get an interview with the, what do you call him, the special agent in charge at the time of the case. His name was Mike Rokasi, and that was actually the first interview I did with Ned. And starting there, it just slowly evolved over time, and you get to the point where you just want to interview everyone who was around Myers Lake that day, because you're just trying to kind of piece a puzzle together of what happened, how it happened, and why the case was unsolved.
Dylan, through the process of doing these interviews and kind of putting the pieces of this story together, what did you learn? What changed? You talked about, a lot of misinformation being out there, but I'm curious about, as you got to know the case, you knew the case well, obviously, as a reporter and photographer for the TV station, but as you dove deeper into it, what things did you turn up that maybe surprised you or that you didn't know before?
Well, I mean, the first thing that kind of puzzled me was it's really hard to solve the case. That are this case in particular, there's like a number of factors that were going on the day the girls went missing that just made it, a needle in a haystack type of case. There was construction on the southbound lane of Highway 20, so you had a construction crew who was camping out at a local campground in Evansdale, and just a number of factors that just kind of contributed to this just absolutely mind-boggling, like the things you have to comprehend all at once just to get a picture of what was going on in the community that day kind of struck me, and I just realized, it's really hard to solve a case when you don't have all the things, the police don't have all the things they need to do it. And it just made me appreciate what they do a lot more.
I haven't had a chance to screen the documentary yet, but I did watch the trailer a couple of times, and I'll be honest, I found the trailer emotionally devastating. Talk to me about, and all three of you, of course, Dylan, you did a lot of these interviews in person, but I'm also guessing, Ned and Kristian, who also are involved, that just listening to the words of the people involved and the story of these little girls, that just had to be an emotional process, every time you sat down with a microphone or at the edit board. Ned, why don't you start?
Yeah, you're totally right about that. When you're there in the moment and you're actually doing an interview, you just focus on being professional and doing the job, and you getting it right. You don't want them to open up these deep wounds and the audio was bad or something, right? So honestly, the emotion hit me when I watch it. When I watch it now, I tear up every time. I just can't get through it because it's such devastating is the right word, like you said, it is. And to hear them, still to this day carrying all of that, it's just hard.
Kristian, you came into this, just a little bit later. It sounds like that, it was post interviews and things like that, more in the, when you're working on the production end. But I'm guessing that you have kind of the same reaction when you were working through this.
Yeah, I mean, when I came in, Dylan, we were still shooting. I mean, we shot interviews. Let me kind of put this is very much a long haul. So, like, there was people when I came on board that were telling us no, that a year later we're finally saying yes. So the interviews kept going, and as things kept coming through, and one thing I will say that the local media did really well was every time there was like a year anniversary of the girls going missing, they would do some type of package like on KWWL or KCRG or wherever, and it'd reignite interest, and things would start coming through the pipeline. I One of the things that when you deal with a project like this and you gain trust and you do spend a lot of time with the family and the survivors of these girls, there's this assumption sometimes that we're here to solve the case, and we're not necessarily here to do that. We're here to elevate the information and get it out there to more people, to hopefully generate more interest, and maybe could lead to new information that could help solve it. And I do think sometimes that there becomes a false hope that we are the investigators and we're here to do it, and then we're not law enforcement. We're not with the Iowa DCI. I mean, we are journalists, we are filmmakers, and we want to elevate this to get this to the widest release possible. So, and make it as accessible as possible so people can hear their story, because it does get to a point that when years and years go by, you just want people to hear you, and I feel like that's what we were really trying to do. And through the process, yes, more things did elevate, more things came out, things that we didn't know, from when we started. Even in the last bit of filming in 2022, where we actually had a crew, because we didn't really have a crew. It was the three of us up until 2022. So sometimes, I was lighting it. I mean, I actually went on when we did the actual like filming with the crew from LA. I was still lighting everything. But we were doing sound, we were shooting with two cameras, sometimes three cameras, and it would just be the three of us, two cars loading in and out, finding places to film with them. And there is this like kind of intimate moment where you become very close to these families, and it is you start to really understand the trauma and the tragedy with it. I feel like with shows that are done in 6 months, I don't think you can really accomplish much of anything. I mean, here 7 years of total filming, you have an opportunity to really, I think, do it right, do it. It's a long haul. It's I know there's time that all three of us were like, are we ever going to finish this? you know and but I mean, I couldn't be more proud of it, where it's at now. And I mean, I remember the day it came out, Dylan and I were in Tulsa, and every time we were not filming in Tulsa, Dylan's out in a parking lot on the phone with people calling, wanting to talk to him, about the case, or about other people that have maybe gone missing, uh because it was very effective. I mean, the feedback from it was extremely effective. It was very good. I mean, again, it's one of the most proud things that I've been a part of.
Uh, Tell me just a little bit about the journey of, so obviously, as you said, this is very much a bootstrap operation. You all did, much of the work just with the three of you. Tell me a little bit about the journey to getting this on Max, because that's quite a coup to get this documentary placed there.
Yeah, so it started with a connection of mine, a friend of mine. His name's Ben Haggerty. At the time, he was out in LA. He's a videographer, producer extraordinaire. And he put me in contact with a guy named Douglas Banker, who runs 5 All in the Fifth, a production company out in LA. And Doug and I talked over the years. We just kept in contact while we were filming. And when I thought the time was right, and when Doug thought the time was right, we took it out and we pitched it to a number of people, and a number of people turned it down because there was no ending, which it can be quite frustrating when you're putting, when all of us are putting our heart and soul and time into this, and people are like, oh, because it's not finished, we don't want to pick it up. It can be a little hard. But then we found a woman named Jessica Sebastian Day of Maven, that's her company, and she became kind of like the true champion for the project, and got it to the point where it was sold to Warner Brothers Discovery Max. And then we brought in another EP named Donnie Eicher, who was a New York Times best-selling author of a book called Dead Mountain: The Dilatov Pass. I don't know if you've heard about that true crime story. It's pretty wild. But yeah, we just assembled a really good team of people who all had the same goals, and we were all oriented the same way. As we wanted to tell a compelling story and kind of maybe lose some of the sensationalism of a lot of true crime, and memorialize the girls in some way in the film. because, at the end of the day, this is who it's about. It's about Lyric and Elizabeth and what happened to them and who they were and what this person took away when, they murdered them.
The documentary premiered on Max in the first part of August. What's been the reception?
Like Kristian was saying before, I've gotten a lot of calls. So my website was up and it had my email and my phone number on it. So immediately after it came out, I got a lot of calls from people across the country, got a lot of emails, got new tips in on the case that then, told them where to turn those into the DCI. But, there was a lot of people who just called to say like, hey, I had went through something like this similar, and they just wanted to talk it out. And I was just an ear for them. Right. And then other people would tell me about a case that was unsolved near them. And, it kind of hits home a little bit because, like a lot of people are affected by, traumas that happen in their community. And, like what happened with Lyric and Elizabeth, devastated a community. So it was good to get the feedback because it means that what you're making is effective and people are watching it and they're not shutting it off. So you always welcome any feedback you get from people, and love to hear their stories and listen to them, because being a documentary filmmaker, your primary job, Kristian's, Ned's, and I's job is not necessarily, like a lot of documentary films are about like the gotcha question or whatnot. And, we kind of take the opposite approach. We just want to be good listeners and just hear people's stories and then portray them as best we can with the most integrity that we can view them with.
Kristian, I thought you phrased it very well when you said your job as filmmakers is not to solve this case, but just to keep it in the public eye, elevate the attention, tell the story of the family and friends who are still, keeping the memory of Lyric and Elizabeth alive. But you can't go through a process like this, without hoping that something you do will jog somebody's memory or bring something new to light. Do you think we'll ever really know what happened?
We hope. All of us do. I mean, Dylan, who's been putting so much time in this, and has gotten very close to the family, I'm sure he could probably speak more on that. I mean, we all do. We all hope that there could be closure for everybody on this.
Dylan, I'll give you the final word on that.
Yeah, I do think they'll solve the case. I 100% think they'll solve the case. I've got a lot of hope that they will. I think it's just a matter of time. Technology may have to catch up, but they've got something, and it'll get figured out. And whoever did this will go to jail. Will go to prison.
The documentary is called Taken Together, currently running on Max, and it's a 3-parter. Did I hear that right?
Yep.
Okay. And if people want to learn more about it, Dylan, you said that your website kind of blew up when this started. So where can people go to visit to find out more about it? And, and then obviously then go to Max to watch it.
Well, I mean, if you want to find out more about the girl's case, Iowa cold cases, there's a website and it goes through all of, Iowa's cold cases, and Lyric and Elizabeth have their own page there where it's got linked articles and whatnot. I mean, that's a good place to go if you want to learn more about the case. And it's done in a responsible way. So I would point you to that.
All right. And where's your website, Dylan?
My website's just my name, DylanSires.com.
Okay. All right. Well, again, do you know, is there a specific amount of time the documentary will be available on Max, or will it just be up there, until it's not up there?
I think according to our contract, in perpetuity. So I think that means forever. Yeah.
Okay. All right. As I said, I remember this, and, and I'm a parent, and even though my kids are grown, anyone who, heard this story, had to be emotionally affected by it. And you three definitely are among those. So thank you for continuing to keep this out there, and congratulations on the success of the project. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that this and the other work that the cold case detectives are doing will someday bring it to a conclusion. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Dennis.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.